Good morning, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us this morning for our Express Course Taster today with myself and one of our educators, Sophie. If you haven't already booked a time to chat with us in the past, I would be the person that would be on the other end of the phone when speaking with Unite Health about the Pilates courses. So we may have spoken already or have a call planned in the future. So it's always nice to put a face to the name. So I am a course consultant here at Unite Health, and I love working in the Pilates industry and sharing, the passion of what we do every day. A bit of background about me. I have always sort of been that person that goes in and out of the corporate and fitness industry, but I always find myself back working in the fitness industry, as that's just what aligns best with me. And I love the industry and the people that we get to be a part of. So it's really, really exciting to be a part of that. And the APPI methods were actually something that really made a big impact in my own personal life. So the education that we teach is just incredible, and it just has so many benefits to it. So for myself, it managed to help me really get out of a chronic pain state I was living in for quite some time. And it was actually not until I came on the course that I really learned all of these amazing methods that we'll run through with you today that really made a big impact. And then being able to go out and share that with others as well was really amazing too. So there's lots to be said for the APPI education and methods that we do teach to help you become a Pilates instructor. And hopefully today you'll get a really great idea of what that looks like. Just a little bit of housekeeping as well. So we are on a webinar, so you can see us, but we can't see you. If you do have any questions throughout, feel free to always pop them through on the chat or send through a question. We're more than happy to get to those for you. And just make sure you stay on until the very end this morning, as we do have a special gift for you guys for joining us today. So that's going to be really exciting as well if it is something you're wanting to get started with. But for now, I think we can jump straight in. So I'd love to introduce you guys to one of our master educators here at Unite Health. This is Sophie. Sophie has a physiotherapy background. She also does so many amazing things as well, lots of Samba dancing, and just such a core and important person in the Unite Health business. So you are sort of learning from one of our best educators. And if you are located in Melbourne, it's really likely that you'll have Sophie as your educator on the course. So good morning, Sophie. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Laura. Hi, guys. Welcome. Hopefully the building noise next door won't distract us too much. But as Laura said, if you've got any questions, just pop them in the chat and we will get to them. So as Laura said, my name's Sophie. I was a physio a long time ago. I trained back in, I think I graduated in the year 2000. So I've been around for a while. I started working with Glenn and Elisa, who were the founding directors of APPI, in 2006. I worked with them at their flagship Pilates studio in Northwest London in Hampstead, and I went into the education side of the business in 2007. So I've been teaching APPI Pilates courses since 2007. I was a physio before, I was teaching the clinical courses, but I stopped being a physio around that time. I think 2008 was when I stopped being a physio for various reasons, but I always loved movement and I loved teaching. And I got into Pilates because I was a women's health physio, and Pilates is just such a wonderful way for pregnant mums to exercise. And certainly a lot of the pregnant mums that I would see as a physio had a lot of issues with their back and their pelvis, and they weren't able to do other forms of exercise. So Pilates was just so liberating for them. So that's how I got into it. But then when I stopped working as a clinician, I discovered this passion I have for teaching. And then I started teaching on the Pilates courses, and I was fortunate enough to travel all throughout Europe, through South America, and through Australia, teaching the APPI Pilates courses. So I have been doing that since 2007. As Laura mentioned, I have other interests in my life. I'm a dancer. I kind of did my careers the other way around. I started as physio and then I became a dancer after that. So I sort of did it in the reverse to most people. But I started dancing. I mean, I've always danced a little bit, but I started dancing professionally about 10 years ago. And I've got a little dance school. So I stepped back from Pilates for a couple of years. Just before the pandemic, actually. So that was a great time to be a dancer during the pandemic. But I ran lots of Pilates classes online in that time, as well as my dance classes. And I actually started teaching on the PIC course post-pandemic. I decided to come back. I was missing it too much. I was missing Unite Health too much because I'd been with Unite Health since about 2015 when I got back from London. But I met Sarah, who's the director of Unite Health, back in 2007. So we've had a long history together with APPI and Unite Health. So I have been a part of the furniture for a very long time. I'm very passionate about teaching, and I really believe in the APPI Pilates method. And even though I'm part-time educator with Unite Health, and I also run my dance school. I teach Brazilian samba, so it's a slightly different type of dancing to maybe some of you guys coming from that dance background into Pilates would have experienced. But I utilize my skills as a Pilates teacher in my dance teaching as well. So I think, especially when you learn our method, it teaches you some real fundamentals about posture, about movement, about how the body works. And you're going to be able to apply that in many areas of your life for yourself personally, as well as obviously in your Pilates classes. And those of you that are coming from other movement backgrounds will probably find it really beneficial in whatever other training it is that you do. So I think that's one of the key differences with APPI Pilates. We make it super user-friendly for everyone. And that makes sense, right? Because it's been developed by clinicians who are used to working with people that don't have the same ability in their body as a non-injured person. I remember working with people who really had very low level of mobility, like post-injury or post-surgery or anything like that. And the APPI method enabled them to start from the ground up and literally go from really low level, but in a safe way, still moving, because movement is key. You just got to be moving. Safe movement, to then progressively, gradually building control and strength and awareness to then get back to full function. And that's kind of the philosophy. We start from the ground up and go to full function. So even though the method was designed for that lower level, for that clinical level, we had so much interest from, I remember, because I've been around since, for a long time, and getting so many phone calls from Pilates teachers wanting to learn our methodology. Even though they were already Pilates trained, they wanted to learn our way because they could see how accessible it was for the average person. And let's face it, we see a lot of Instagram Pilates with, beautiful bodies and like super high levels of flexibility. And, that is really that classical Pilates that was designed for ballerinas. And, ballerinas have this amazing strength and flexibility, which not the average person has. So I think when Pilates teachers were out there working in the community, they're like, well, actually, a lot of my clients can't do that stuff. So what can I offer them to still give them that sense of achievement and that benefit that Pilates offers? What can I offer them that they don't need to be a ballerina to do? And that's where we fit in. So then after many years of getting these inquiries, we changed what was a clinical method to make it a mainstream method as well. However, we're still teaching you in not the same way as that we would teach clinicians, obviously, because you don't have that background in pathology, and we're absolutely not teaching you clinical Pilates. You will not be trained in clinical Pilates after this. That's really important to understand that. However, you will have a knowledge base to enable you to modify movement and to teach safely, regardless of who's in your class. We're teaching you principles rather than just teaching you a whole bunch of exercises. It's very easy just to rote learn movements, but it's not about that. You can rote learn exercises forever, and after you finish the course, you're going to learn a whole bunch of other repertoire that we don't teach you. That's not the hard part. What you need to be able to do to have longevity in this career and to have confidence is to be able to analyze movement and modify movement and understand why you're doing that. You're not just giving a variation for the sake of giving a variation. You understand that when you give this variation, you're decreasing load in the movement, or you're decreasing base of support, or you're decreasing the range of motion, and you understand why those things actually make the movement easier or harder if you reverse that. So Oh,
It's
sorry.
no, I was going to say, like, the methods and everything, that's exactly what helped me. And I started at that beginner level and slowly saw my strength improve and the pain ease. And now I have, pretty much full function of my body again and live a relatively pain-free life. But I also have the skills and the tools to adapt that into my day-to-day life to sort of help me, feel better on the days that I might be having certain flare-ups. So today's session is going to be super, super exciting, guys. You're going to learn so much about what we do and what it would look like for you on the course as well. So Sophie's going to run through all of that with you, and then we will talk about what's actually involved in the course day to day. So I'll jump back on very shortly to chat further with you guys and run through, what the course actually entails. But for now, I'm going to throw it over to you, Soph, to start our little taster today. And I will jump back on and see you guys all very soon. So enjoy the session.
Thanks, Laura.
Nice.
Cool, guys. So as Laura said, we'll give you a little taster so I can maybe just demonstrate some of these sort of concepts that I like to teach my students from a concept base rather than just like, here's the exercise, learn it. So we're going to start with our absolute fundamental of fundamentals, which is the 5 key elements, which is essentially understanding your postural alignment. Now, it's important to understand that everyone has a different natural posture, which is based on genetics, which is based on just the natural structure of our body. And everyone, normal is this huge spectrum. So not everyone's going to look the same. However, we can still think about stacking our body in a particular way. That means that our body is under like the least amount of stress, I guess, day to day. And I think Laura was mentioning that she was able to incorporate some concepts into her day-to-day life to help her recover from her injuries and just continue to be healthy and strong after that point of recovering from injury. So I'm going to take you through the 5 key elements, which is essentially your postural setup in Pilates, which is applied to every single exercise that we teach you, whether it's on your back, on your tummy, standing up, lying down on your side, whatever it is. And this is what you can take into your everyday life. And when I was working as a clinician, this was what I found the most valuable thing I learned in my Pilates, basically just teaching this postural setup to my clients. And then they can take that into whatever situation they are in during their day. So we always teach this to beginners in what we call the Pilates rest position, which is lying on your back with your knees bent up. The reason we teach in that position is because when you're lying on your back, you have the most amount of feedback to your body because you can feel your back resting in the floor. So you've got lots of awareness of where your body is in space. So we always start like that. So I'm going to do that for you, demonstrate. If you want to lie down at home, you're super welcome to do that. We can do this in sitting and standing as well, but I like to start on the mat so you can really feel your body in contact with the floor. So I'm going to come over here. Might just bring this with me a little bit, angle it down. Okay. So we lie down on our back and you can use a little head support if you want, just like a rolled up towel. I've got my hair in a bun, so I'm using my low bun to kind of prop my head up. It's really nice to have a little bit of head support. Most people benefit from that. So if you are lying on the ground, we're just going to feel how our body is in contact with the floor. And I like to imagine that I'm lying on a set of train tracks. So I've got my feet and my hips in line with those train tracks, as well as my shoulders. My kneecaps are pointing up to the ceiling as if they're balancing a little glass of champagne, perhaps on each knee. And in this position, we're going to take a few breaths. So even if you are sitting down, place your hands on your rib cage. So you're going to place your hands on this lower part of your rib cage here. And I want you to interlace the tips of your fingers like this. Okay, so if you're lying down, just allow your elbows to rest on the floor behind you. And I just want you to shut down your eyes for a moment and just take a few breaths. And just be aware of any movement that you can feel under your hands. And be aware of any movement maybe you can feel in your tummy or in your higher chest as well. Just breathe for a moment and just become aware of where you're breathing from. So breathing is one of our 5 key elements, and it's also one of the key principles of Pilates. So obviously breathing is essential to life. But the way we breathe also has implications in terms of how our body functions, and how we engage our abdominals. And obviously abdominals is a really important part of Pilates. So when we breathe in Pilates, we like to teach you a lateral breathing pattern. So lateral just means sideways, basically. So if you've got your hands on your lower ribs, as you breathe in, try and direct the air in and out. So it's like your ribs are expanding outways and also into the mat as you breathe in. So your lungs fill with air, and that movement create that air going into your lungs creates movement of your rib cage to spread out wide. So that's what you're feeling underneath your hands, that spreading out wide of the rib cage. And as you're doing that, try and keep your tummy still. So maybe you can have one hand now on your ribs and one hand on your tummy. And as you're breathing, try and direct the air into your hand on your ribs and keep your tummy nice and still. And just be aware of where the movement's coming from. So obviously we'll go through all of this in a lot more detail on the course, but just something, a little detail like how you breathe can have an effect on the rest of your body. So that's one of our 5 key elements is of breathing. I'm literally just rushing through these quickly because we've only got a few minutes together. So just to give you a bit of an idea. So we want this lateral breathing pattern. Then we're going to come into what we call our neutral pelvis, okay, or our neutral spine position. So the body has a natural curves in the spine. So all we're talking about when we're talking about neutral is you maintaining the natural curvature of your spine. Okay, so in our lower part of the back, there's a natural lordosis. So a lordosis is just a curve. So when we're lying in our back, that curve means that there's a little space underneath our lower back. So we use a lot of visual imagery in Pilates. So in this case, I'm going to get you to imagine that you're holding a little blueberry underneath your lower back. Okay, so there's just a little gap there that you're maintaining. And then that's your neutral pelvis position. So in other words, we don't want to have the back completely pushed into the floor. And I know a lot of you are probably, if you've done Pilates classes, you might have been trained in this flat back position. There's some instances where it's good to be in a flat back position. However, when you're in that flat back position, you're really engaging a lot of your superficial tummy muscles, which we just don't need them to be working all the time. It leads to a lot of stiffness through your body if you're always in that position. So we really like to encourage this neutral position, which should just feel nice and relaxed and literally just respecting the natural curve of your body. Okay, so we've got this little imaginary blueberry behind our lower back. Then we've talked about breathing, but when we're thinking about the rib cage as well, we want to have the ribs sort of like melting into the floor. Okay, we don't want to have the ribs popping up like this. A lot of people are naturally in this, what we call a rib flare position, which just means that that part of your back where your upper back meets your lower back is working really hard, and you can carry a lot of tension through your back muscles if you're constantly popping your ribs up like that. So we like to get you to relax your ribs into the mat and try and just keep that mid part of your back nice and soft. So you can think about lying in wet sand, for example, and your rib cage is creating this indentation in the wet sand. So if you were to stand up, you'd be able to see this indentation of your body in the sand, and there'd be that nice dint from where your ribs are just melting and heavily resting in the sand. So you should feel relaxed through your rib cage. However, making sure you've still got that little gap under your lower back. Then we think about our shoulder blades. I like to direct the shoulder blade position thinking more about my collarbones, because there is a connection anatomically between your collarbones and your shoulder blades. And obviously on the course, you'll learn a lot about anatomy as well. But just think for now to lengthen through your collarbones. So you're nice and open through the front of your chest. And as you lengthen and widen your collarbones, you should just feel your shoulder blades just gently gliding around the side of your rib cage. We want our shoulder blades to kind of sit flat under our ribs, as if they're 2 dinner plates just sitting there under our rib cage. And you also want to think of creating space between your ears and your shoulders. So we're avoiding holding tension around our neck and shoulders. So we're keeping our shoulders away from our ears, and we're opened or lengthened across the collarbones. Okay, and then finally, your head position. Okay, generally in Pilates, we want to have what we call a little bit of upper cervical flexion which is going to engage like the deep neck muscles. And that's like the muscles, it's like the core of your neck, I guess. So if you're in this position, you can imagine that you've got a right peach and you're holding this right peach between your chin and your chest. So we don't want to have our chin poking up, and we don't want to have our chin on our chest like this. We just want to be, once again, in that neutral position, right, or that slight chin nod where you're holding a right peach. And I want you to imagine that it is a right peach. And if you were to hold it too firmly, you would bruise the peach. So these analogies are really to give the idea of it's an awareness of your posture, but it's not a forced position. It's active, but it's not forced. Okay, so everyone's natural posture will look a bit different. So it's whatever feels good for you and what is your neutral. Okay, so as I said, we start lying on the mat because we start exercising on the mat in this position where we have a lot of feedback. I can feel if I flatten my back. I can feel if my ribs lift away from the floor. I can feel lots of things when I'm in this position. However, we bring those concepts into all positions. And certainly, you know, even if we just look at that neck alignment when you're sitting, we spend a lot of time sitting at our desk and we end up into this, what we call forward chin position or forward neck position. So what I did on the mat just then, I was getting you out of this position and bringing you into this position. So even here, I can use the analogy of imagining that right peach between my chin and my chest. And so if I was to sit like that, instead of like that all day, you can imagine I'm going to have a lot less tension through my neck. So even if we're working with people who aren't injured, most people spend most of the day at their desk, probably with their chin poking out like that. Like how many people would complain about neck and shoulder tension? And of course, that you're not going to be able to like fix them or treat them for that. However, just giving them simple advice about their alignment when they're sitting at work all day, that's going to help them. And a lot of people will find a lot of benefit from just that basic postural education. So that's just like the 5 key elements in a nutshell. And all of those concepts follow through every single exercise we teach you and all of the reformer stuff as well. Mat work is essential to become a good reformer instructor. Everything is based on mat work. And then it just follows through to the reformer. I'm just now going to quickly take you through some of our mat work levels. So the Pilates, the APPI Pilates method, the mat work is based on levels. So we've taken the 34 traditional mat work movements. 9 of those movements have been removed from our repertoire because those 9 movements were deemed by Glenn and Elisa to not really have any value for your average person. There's no benefit of doing those particular 9 movements that can't be gained from doing other exercises, which are much safer. So we've taken away kind of the exercises that potentially could be harmful if people don't have these huge levels of flexibility and strength that the classical Pilates method was designed for. So we've taken away 9 of the movements, and the remaining movements have been broken down to various levels. So our highest level of the movement in some cases looks quite similar to the traditional, but usually done with a bit more control. So I'm going to take you through a movement called side kick. I'll show you what the traditional movement was, and then I'll take you through our 5 levels so you can see how everything progresses. So I'm going to bring us down onto the mat. So the traditional side kick looks something like this. So big kicking forwards and back of the leg. Okay, so not really looking particularly at the control that we'll look at now. So side kick level 1 is an exercise to engage our gluteus medius. So you'll learn about that on the course. It's one of our bottom muscles. It's really super important in our pelvic control. And it's really important to have strong glutes just for your general health, for your spine as well and your function. So our side kick level 1 looks like this. So my knee is bent, my bottom knee is bent, and my top knee is bent. So I've got a nice stable base of support here. And this is what we would say is like a short lever. Okay, so it's easier. My leg feels lighter when it's bent than when it's straight. So this is an exercise challenging my pelvic control here and also my glutes. Now, I didn't talk about abdominals before in the 5 key elements. And yeah, you'll understand when you come on the course why sometimes we're going to talk about abdominals and why sometimes we won't. Okay, so that's our level 1. Level 2, you just straighten the leg and you continue. So now you can see that my leg is straight.
So now my leg feels heavier. So my glute muscles here have to work harder to hold the weight of my leg up as I move my leg forwards and backwards like this. And I'm still challenging my awareness. I'm trying not to move my spine. So I need to use my abdominals for that. So my abdominals are working at a low level just to keep my back nice and still. Level 3, I'm now going to decrease my base of support. So I've got this long, skinny base of support now. So now it's much harder to balance. Hang on, I'm going to move myself over here. It's much harder to balance now. Okay, so it's still the same movement of the hip, but now a little bit smaller base of support with still this longer lever. So my leg still feels relatively heavy. Okay, so I'm really starting to feel it now in these side bottom muscles. Level 4, I'm going to make it even harder on my base of support. I'm going to reduce the base of support again by lifting up my bottom foot. So now I've got a very small base of support. So now it's much harder to balance. And now my obliques are having to work quite a lot to balance me in this position. So here I've got my glutes working to hold the weight of my leg up and my abdominals working to keep my spine nice and still as I'm applying this force through my body with that moving leg. And my inner thigh muscles are also working. So there's lots of things working here. Then when we come up to level 5, we're going to incorporate some upper body work too. I'm going to be in this position. I have to use my shoulder blade muscles to push myself out of the floor. I have to use my obliques to keep my ribs lifted out of the floor. And then I'm going to lift my bottom leg as well. So I've got this really small base of support, having to control my upper body position. So this requires strength and control through my upper body, through my obliques, and I'm still working those glutes. So you can see how we've got 5 progressive levels to come up to our highest level. So even at level 1, we're getting some nice work through the glutes, but it's very achievable for a beginner. And then level 5, you need to have more core and you need to have more upper body strength. You need to have better endurance through your glutes. So that's more suitable for someone that's advanced. So in a class, I might start maybe at level 2 or 3 and then give people options to go down or up. So it's so easy to give variations in a class when you know all of the levels. It's really, really user-friendly. I'm going to give you back over to Laura in just one moment, but just in terms of abdominals, I know everyone thinks about abs and Pilates, and abs are super important. I didn't talk really much about abs when we were setting up in the 5 key elements. So the abdominals, what we used to always engage abdominals, every exercise, abs, abs, abs. But now what we've seen, if people use their abs too much, that can actually cause other problems. So when you do our training, you're going to learn when it's important to engage your abdominals and when we're just going to stay in neutral, because just being in that neutral position where you're holding the little blueberry, just by being in that position, your deep abdominal muscles are already working. So when you're doing the beginner repertoire, you don't really need to think about your abdominals. You just need to think about your neutral and control the movement. And by doing that, your abdominals will be working appropriately for the movement that you're asking them to do. It's not appropriate to brace your abs when you're doing simple movements. You're just going to end up stiffening up your body. However, when I'm doing sidekick level 5, I need to be thinking about using my core because that's what's going to stabilize me under that higher load. So that's just in a nutshell, a couple of the concepts. And yeah, if you come onto the course, then obviously we'll break it all down and we'll get you to understand really, base of support, lever, load, all of these things, and how your body is actually moving. What are the aims of all of the exercises? So you'll be able to know, well, if your client wants to work on their glutes or wants to work on their abdominals or wants to work on their posture, you'll be able to design a program for them because you'll have the knowledge to understand why you're doing the movements and what is the actual benefit of each movement for every person. Over to you, Laura.
Thank you so much, Sophie. I hope everyone gained just a little bit of insight as to how we teach and what you could really be learning on the course. We'll just jump in now to all about what the training actually covers, and then we've got some time for questions as well. So please let me know. You can pop them in the chat as we go, and you can direct that to either myself or Sophie. So basically the APPI Pilates Instructor Certification. Now, this course, APPI as an educator have been around for over 20 years. So they've got a really great reputation in the industry, and they are the leading provider of Pilates training. And a lot of that comes back to the fact that we have amazing educators like Sophie on the course with those allied health backgrounds that can really show you the best ways to not only teach classes, but also that modifying stage, which is so important to be confident with as an instructor. Now, you may have also seen, if you've been on our website, that we are actually KX Pilates preferred teacher training provider as well. So they're the largest Pilates franchise in the country, and they prefer to hire APPI instructors due to just the high quality of education and the high quality of instructors that do get sent out into the industry once you do complete the course with us. As in saying that though, we have so many other partner studios we work quite closely with that actually prefer to hire APPI trainers too. So let us know where you're located, and we can put you in touch with some really great studios that would love to take you on board. APPI's training is also internationally recognized, which means you can teach absolutely anywhere in the world once you finish the course with us. So the fact that you can take that anywhere is just a nice added bonus as well. Now, there's no prerequisites required. It doesn't matter what level you're at. If you do have injuries or limitations or whatever your situation may be, we are still going to be able to teach you how to teach Pilates in the safest but still most effective way. So don't think too much about your fitness experience or where you're currently at in that journey. You'll find that on the course. You'll learn so many amazing methods, like Sophie just showed us, that you can then incorporate into your day-to-day life. So we're here to help and support you and guide you through anything like that, and make sure that we do send you out 100% ready to go. You do learn your full mat work and reformer repertoire, so you'll be able to teach in any Pilates setting and teach people from all levels as well. But most importantly, the biggest takeaway from doing a training with APPI is the fact that once you pass your assessments with us, you're ready to start working and teaching immediately. So what's actually covered on a day in the course? Now, we start every single day with a Pilates class, which is a really nice way just to set your intention for the day and warm up the body for all the Pilates we'll be doing. So it's a really great way just to ease into the day. We have really easy to understand anatomy workshops, and obviously having our educators with those allied health backgrounds, they make it just nice and simple to just understand and take that in, and how to relate that back to your classes as well. Beginner, intermediate, advanced levels, as Sophie showed you, we do have these different levels of each exercise. So you'll learn how to incorporate this into your classes, add extra spice, add extra challenge, and really be able to safely and effectively structure those classes as well. As well as teaching group classes, you'll do your one-on-one sessions too, which opens up more opportunities for you as an instructor. And you'll also cover some of the small equipment workshops that we do, and the reformer jump board. So you'll be able to take and run those classes in any studio as well. Now, another side to the course is actually covering, what the industry looks like, what pathways are available for you as an instructor. And we talk about the best ways to kind of network and market yourself in that space in gaining employment. But we also talk about, what it's like to open your own Pilates business, or maybe in the long term, you might like to open a studio. We run through those different points as well, so that you have all of the options at your fingertips and can make the best step for you as a new instructor. We'll have an industry guest speaker come in as well. So normally it's someone that has been working in the industry for a while, or just had a lot of its success and can give you some great tips. So that's a really exciting part of the training too. So it's not just your Pilates teacher training. We will also train you, on the best ways to make the most of it and be as successful as possible. So we offer a lot of different intakes that you can choose from, all over Australia. We've got Perth, Melbourne, Adelaide, Brisbane, and Sydney. We run our part-time course. Now, this is roughly 1 weekend per month, so it can run between 5 to 7 months, depending on the state you're in. This course here, we do 3 weekends with you online via Zoom. This would cover your mat work and anatomy components before then bringing you for 4 weekends face-to-face in your state. That would cover your reformer and give you that real in-person experience where we can spend that time with you, really building your skills and confidence as an instructor. We also run a fast-tracked option, so 3-week intensive. It's 9 to 5 at our studio in Paran every day for 3 weeks. You basically learn all the exact same content as the part-time option, but just in that 3-week block. So if you're looking to get certified fast, this is a really great option to look at as well. And then next option here is our hybrid. So similar to the start of the part-time option, we do our 3 weekends online via Zoom, and then we sort of roll into an intensive. So it's a bit of a mix between the both of these, and that will see you then do 8 days of in-person training with us intensively on the weekdays. So it's a really nice option in Melbourne and in Sydney if you're not looking to take the full 3 weeks off work, but hoping to get it done quicker than 6 months. And then if you are not in a position to attend any face-to-face sessions, we do also have a 100% online option where you can come through and do that course majority at your own pace to get certified a lot faster. So get in touch with us if you'd like to chat further about those intakes, but there's lots to choose from. So always happy to help. As I slowly mentioned there as well, we have some pre-course online lectures that will be available on the online portal for you to work through. 6 days mat work and anatomy training and 8 days of reformer person in training. And the only requirement of you outside of your training days would be to work through your self-paced logbook hours. These are really straightforward. There's 3 components here. We have some observation hours. Unite Health actually provides you with 20 online classes that you can sit back and watch from home, and you can also watch any in person at your local studio. You've got to be logging in your self-practice as well. So your personal practice of classes you're going to week. And then finally, your practice teaching hours. So once the course starts, you can then start your practice teaching hours, but this is just done onto family and friends around you at home. They are self-paced, meaning that you can add them into your life wherever you see fit, and work through them at a time that's going to be accessible and achievable for you. So there's no pressure from us on study load from week to week as well. Once you've all completed that and your training days, you can then book yourself in for your assessment. The certification assessment, I don't like the word exams. I feel like it freaks people out. It's really not that intense. There's a really nice and easy online theory assessment, which is mainly multiple choice that you'll be able to complete just from home. And you'll be able to have your course manuals in front of you for that. So it is an open book assessment that you run through. So no need to set aside, 20, 30 hours to study for that one. You should be absolutely fine to get through that with your manuals in front of you. And then you'll actually book in a time at the studio in your state to come through and sit your practical, where you'll design and deliver a 50-minute Pilates session. So you might do a 5-minute warm-up, 20 minutes mat, 20 minutes reformer, and a 5-minute cool down. And that's just onto one person of your choice. So you get to pick your person, which is really great. And then our educators will just spot check you on a couple of exercises, just to make sure that you're fully across that repertoire as well. Now, to thank you all for joining today, we do have a bit of a special offer for you. So if you would like to get started and you want to secure your spot, our 2024 intakes have started to fill up really, really quickly. So there's limited spots left to start in January. It's only 1 weekend in January, so you can definitely get started and roll through for the next year. And basically, if you use that voucher code there, give 300, you'll actually save $300 off the upfront cost. So I've just listed below there what course fees are. Normally, we have an upfront price and 2 payment plan options, but you can see by joining into the course by Sunday, you'll be able to save an additional $300. There's no hidden costs in there. That includes everything for you, your 14 days of training, all of your course materials and manuals, your certification assessments, and the online classes we provide you. So it's a really, really great little special that's running at the moment, and you've got that available until Sunday at 5 p.m. I'll leave that there just so anyone who's hoping to write that down can absolutely get that code written down to book in for. Now we're going to jump into some questions. I've got some listed here, which is really exciting. So you can direct them to me or to Sophie, whether it's about the course content or whether it's about booking in for the course. So let us know your questions, guys. We're here to help you. Thank you for your question, Bianca. Now, pre and postnatal training is not something we go into really great depth with in this course. You'll realize when you do the first day of the course that there is so much for you to learn as new instructors. So adding in something so specific like this at the very start of your training is not going to be conducive to you being a really amazing instructor. What we really want is to get you super, super confident with your mat work and reformer first, get you out teaching at least for a couple of months so that you're feeling really confident in that space. And when you're feeling ready, you can come back and do your APPI anti-postnatal training. We offer this in both mat work and reformer. So you can choose which one's going to align with you best. There is a discount for anyone that comes back to APPI to do further training as well. So once you've graduated, let us know that that's where your interests lie. It's just a 2-day course. So it's really just about adding on to your skill set. But obviously being pre and postnatal, it's something we need to be super careful with and be really knowledgeable about. So we really want you to be confident with your mat and reformer first, but absolutely come back and do your pre and postnatal with us at some stage. The practical exam, thank you for your question as well. So it's done at Unite Health Studio in Melbourne, and then we have our studio partners around the country that you'd book in for that practical. Now, if that's not going to be accessible for you to do that in person, we do have the option of also, running that online for you, but we can decide that closer to the date as that time comes around for you to book in. So let us know what you would prefer. Now Saskia has asked a question. So this might be a great one for you. Is it difficult to remember all of the exercises you are teaching when running a Pilates class?
So Saskia, it will seem like that initially. However, you will obviously always pre-plan your Pilates classes, and that's why we tell you to plan your classes. Once you've planned your classes, you will be able to remember. And to be honest, when I run Pilates classes, I often just have my class plan to the side. I've got my little notebook where I write out my class plans, and I will just go and look at my class plan if I can't quite remember what's coming up next. I'm pretty used to it now, but when I started, I used to do that a lot. And there's nothing wrong with having your class plan there. You know what? Your clients will really appreciate that you spent the time to plan the class. Mm-hmm. So there's nothing wrong with checking on your class plan, but you will find as soon as you start, you'll get into the flow. It seems overwhelming at the start, but I promise with a bit of experience, you'll be able to do it in your sleep.
And we provide you with the templates as well. So you'll be able to sort of have your template and just pick the APPI exercises to chuck in there, to do your side lyings, to do your transitions, to do your warm-ups. So you'll find that after a couple of days on the course with us, that will start making a bit more sense. And by the end, you'll be able to just design your own classes as you go, which is amazing.
We give you a real structure when it comes to teaching. We even give you a script to follow of when you're delivering your teaching instructions, because people get a bit tongue-tied. They're, how am I going to get all of the information out? If you follow our script, we give you a really user-friendly way to deliver the information, and we encourage all of our new graduates to use that script when they're starting. With time, you're going to find your own style, but we will really give you some very clear tools and a real structure to follow. So that's going to really help you with your confidence when you're actually out there to delivering your Pilates.
Yeah. We've also got another question about international students and obtaining a student visa to attend the course. Now, we don't have anything to do with student visas in that sense. I believe you can just come through to Australia on a tourist visa to get the course completed. So that shouldn't be any problems. And if you'd like to chat further about that, feel free to book in a time to chat with me through our website, and we can go over the details of what that looks like and, talk about that further. And we've got another question here. So after finishing the exams, will Unite Health help us with placements, any mentorship or recommendation post-graduation? Look, we don't necessarily help you with placements, but we definitely have connections that we can put you in touch with. Your practice teaching hours is something you'll do outside of the course, as I mentioned, just onto family and friends. So there's no need for you to go out and grab a mentor or partner with the studio. We do have mentor sessions available that you can book in for one-on-one time with our educators if you need it. But just chatting to the team about your local state, we can pop you in touch with some studios we work closely with. But another really great way to gain employment at some of these studios is to use your self-practice hours as a way to go and try lots of studios in your area. Have that conversation with instructors when you finish your class and let them know you're doing your training. More than likely, they'll have spots coming up, classes they need to get covered, or they'll have a friend or another studio they know of that they're looking to hire that they can pop you in touch with as well. So the process is actually not as scary or as daunting as it may seem in terms of gaining employment. The industry is booming right now, so there is opportunities everywhere for absolutely everyone at all different levels of capacity and all different types of availability. So with the industry going the way that it is, the demand for instructors has never been higher. So we are really, really confident that you can walk away and walk straight into a job. In fact, a lot of our students actually come into their assessments with a job already lined up, ready to start the next week, just praying that they pass, which they do. So you know, it's really supportive in that sense. And we'll talk a lot about this on the course, preparing you for the industry, getting your insurance behind you, and what that looks like in terms of gaining employment or connecting yourself with studios. So hopefully that's answered your question there, RJ. Thank you so much for sending that through. If anyone has any other questions, please feel free to pop them in. Look, my calendar I've left open for today. So if you would like to discuss the course further, please book in a time to chat with me. I'd love to speak with you about what course intake would suit you the best. And obviously that $300 off is available until Sunday. So if you'd like to chat today or tomorrow or Friday and have a think over the weekend, you've got that time. But remember that those spots for next year have filled up really, really quickly. You know, we're amazed at the amount of people coming through the training, but at the same token, we're still getting so many studios reach out to us saying, I need instructors. So the time is now. We're always here to support and guide you. And, you know, if you are in Melbourne and you come on the course, you'll get to meet the wonderful Sophie and just absorb all of her knowledge even further. So thank you so much for joining us today. We are super, super excited for you and your new journey, and we can't wait to hear from you. I'll stay on for a few minutes. If there's anything else I can help you with, feel free to pop it in the chat. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and I look forward to chatting with you soon. Thank you so much for your time, Sophie. You're just incredible and such a core person here at Unite Health. We don't know what we would do without you, so I really appreciate you making time this morning as well to join us.
Laura. See you later, guys. Hope to see you on the course.
Thanks so much, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.